Hey, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts-Weinstein, and today we're going to talk about calendar year versus fiscal year for your business. Which one should you use? So calendar year for your tax year, for your legal year, is the default. That's January 1st through December 31st. That's the default for any business. That's the default for any individual, for you keeping track of your finances and filing your taxes. However, there's another option, which is called the fiscal year. Probably heard fiscal year in reference to big corporations and things like that. If you've ever worked at a big company, a lot of them do not follow the calendar year to do their taxes. We're going to go into why you might want to do that. But the fiscal year is just another year that you pick. It is another 12-month year that you use to keep track of all your finances and to file your taxes and to calculate whether or not you've made a profit and do you owe any taxes on that profit, either individually or the corporation or LLC or whatever it is. Now, you can elect to be one or the other. The default is calendar year, but you can elect to have a fiscal year. You cannot go back and forth all the time, okay? You need to pick one or the other. You can switch it later, but you have to have a reason. They do not want you messing around with this because it's just a logistical nightmare. Since calendar year is the default, that's what works for a lot of smaller businesses. That's kind of the most easy thing because you don't have to actually elect something. And that's the year that the IRS uses. You also may have a calendar year personally, which doesn't have to be, but if you have a calendar year personally, it makes sense to have your business lined up with your personal taxes so all the paperwork works. Otherwise, it's more complicated. There's also certain situations where you have to do the calendar year. One of them is if you don't keep books or records, which I really hope you're keeping books and records as a business owner, but that's the other situation, is if you're not doing any bookkeeping, which you should be doing bookkeeping, so that one shouldn't apply to you. So why should you elect to do a fiscal year? Since it's not the default, it's a bit more complicated because you have to actually do something about it. Here's why. There are certain businesses where it does not make sense to just use the calendar year because it will create more of a mess than having a more complicated tax situation because you're doing a different year. So for example, let's say almost all your business is with the federal government. Now, the federal government has a fiscal year. It's October 1st through September 30th. You may want your fiscal year to match up with the federal government's fiscal year, or if you had 90% of your business is with some corporation who has that fiscal year, whatever, just to make everything easier because they're going to be giving you all the stuff based upon that year, and you want stuff to match up. The other situation that comes up a lot, if you're selling products, for example, is that you do a huge amount of your business in December. You're selling people stuff to have for holidays. And for you to have to close out your books on December 31st is going to be a nightmare because people are still doing returns, you're still doing fulfillment for people who order late. The thing is, you want your income and the expenses that match up with that income to be in the same tax year if it's humanly possible. It's never going to be perfect, but you want it to be if it's possible. So if you have some seasonal business where all your business is in the summer or all your business is in the winter or whatever it is, you want your fiscal year to kind of wrap around that seasonal time frame. So the income and the expenses that go together are matched up. So you could actually get a real determination on whether or not you're making a profit. I recommend that before you decide to go with a fiscal year, you talk to a tax preparer, an accountant, somebody, both to make sure you're filling out the forms right, and also to make sure that that actually makes sense for you. You do probably want an expert opinion on that because they're the ones who are going to be helping you with the taxes and things, and you want to make sure that they also think that it is a good idea and what specific dates you pick for your business. Now, as I said before, you cannot switch back and forth. You need to pick something and go with it. You can switch in the future, but you have to get the IRS's permission to do so. And you have to have a good reason for switching. Typically, it's going to be because something changed in your business and what you're doing, and it makes more sense to do so. But I can't go back and forth on an annual basis. So how do you actually elect the fiscal year? Now, for some of you, you're going to do it when you file your form that makes your business be an S corporation. So let's say you created a corporation or you create an LLC and you want it to be taxed as an S Corp. When you file your form 2553, which I did a video on and I can link to it, you are going to elect your tax year, which will be calendar year as a default or a fiscal year. And you have to give them a reason why that makes sense, which, if it's your reason is because of seasonality of your business, you'll put that, and then you'll pick your fiscal year. So you set that up at that time. There's some other exceptions that I'm not going to go through. I'm going to link the instructions for the form that you have to file for the specific exemptions, because a lot of them are very esoteric and you'd want to talk to your accountant about what those exceptions apply to you. But otherwise, you file this form called the Form 1128. And I'm going to link to that form and to the instructions for that form so you can check it out. But generally speaking, you're saying you tell them then your name and address and all that kind of stuff. You tell them what tax year you want, and you describe the nature of your business, which is going to support the fact that you need this different tax year, this fiscal year. And you're going to go into requesting whether or not the IRS will approve this. There are some automatic approvals, and then there are ones where you're actually asking the IRS to do a ruling. I'm not going to do a video going through all these different details because it really depends upon the circumstances of your particular situation and where you are. And this is where I recommend you talk to your tax person, your accountant, to look at exactly what your fiscal year should be and how you're going to support it and get this ruling for you. You want someone who can practice before the IRS. It does not have to be a lawyer. There are people who are tax practitioners who have been admitted to do tax stuff with the IRS, and that's the kind of person you want to help you figure this out if you have to get a ruling for changing to a particular fiscal year. So the short version of it is most really small businesses, a calendar year is the right situation. But if it's a seasonal business or you do a huge amount of your business with the federal government or somebody else who has a particular tax year, you may want to look into having a fiscal year. And by the way, an individual can have that fiscal year too. So if you want to have your personal taxes match up with your business, that's possible to do too. Also, trusts can have fiscal years. Many different entities can have that. But that's something that you want to talk to your tax person about and not just kind of make the decision randomly, because switching is a bit of a big deal. Again, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts-Weinstein. If you have any questions about this issue, feel free to ask them in a comment below and I'll try to point you in the right direction. Thumbs up if you found this helpful. Subscribe if you like more videos like this. And you can support the channel on Patreon if you want to request specific videos for your specific situation. And of course, support the channel to make more videos like this for you. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.